get a depreciation rate, but we should be able to figure out the operating cost.
Well, yeah, but how do you compare a kitchen versus 2 or 3 guys setting up tables and chairs? I mean, there's
also
sorry.
bathroom cleaning and security.
That's normal daily operation.
I was just going to say it's the incremental cost.
It's a bad way of thinking to do that.
It doesn't cost anything else because we have people that are securities there anyway. So we're not hiring any security for these parties. You have your parking staff that's there that sometimes set up the tables and break them down, but they're there anyway because they're on the job. They're parking cars.
There's got to be some incremental cost.
There is. In the business world, whether you're there or not, you still have a billable expense.
Right. The question is whether it's nominal or not.
Well, again, as part of our effort, Paul, Terry, Fred, and Bishop, this is another area to look at that would be helpful. I think, again, it's going to involve some assumptions. I appreciate that, Bill. You're absolutely right. But what you really want to do, the way we do it in Wall Street, you figure out what answer you want, and then you come up with an rationale.
That's the 1%, right?
Exactly. Well, I was thinking more like the 120 divided by 620 is we're going to run it at the 25, whatever, 30% rate. But obviously it's just notional. We appreciate that. That's correct, Bob.
I think that hourly rate is fair.
$30. That's it. Yeah, it is interesting. Do you happen to know how they do it?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah, no, sure.
But maybe we'll get that information.
Well, would you find that out as well? How the other municipalities do this? Okay. I don't want to be known as Scrooge. We already have the least fun park. No, I'm joking. Okay. So yeah, and you're absolutely right. The other reason for the meeting tonight, I wanted to. I didn't expect to come to a decision on this night, even if we were full for 6, because it's got to be conformed to Rye Town. And Rye Town, what I'm going to have to get Rye Town, we'll have to be ready to go next Tuesday, next month as well, if at all possible, in terms of the not-for-profits.
For the
municipalities, I don't know if we'll have.
Let me know, because if you're talking about municipalities, then I put on my my hat.
We should be in position to make a decision on the not-for-profits.
For the not-for-profits.
Yes.
You've spoken to all the municipalities. I know you've.
Well, we've got to. It's one of these. You know how things. Fluid. Very fluid discussion over the last several months, and now we're going to have to make it happen.
Bishop, question.
Sorry, apologize.
On the non-profit organizations, do we ask for their copy of their certificate of non-profit?
Yeah, every non-profit is asked to provide 2 things for us. One, we have to see a copy of their IRS determination letter for 501c3 status, and we also ask for a certificate of insurance naming us as an additional insured for the event. So we're looking for both of those 2 things. If they can't give us those, they have to pay the fee.
Who's worked with you to set the limits on the insurance requirements?
Well, we work with our insurance agency, and right now we've got $1 million limitations.
Okay. But I'm saying that we should incorporate that into our policy as the insurance requirement.
Absolutely.
We actually have done that at Crawford Park for for-profits, and I think we're still, for anybody that uses it, right, actually.
Yeah, more or less, but specifically non-profits, we do it in both parks, right. Crawford Park and Rye Town Park.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, in full disclosure, one of the things we're thinking of, we're working to achieve is a model American community, and, it's a big term, but what we're trying to do is there's a very important social sector that works in Rye Brook, Portchester, and I presume Rye City as well, where you have a number of organizations ranging from the Knights of Columbus to the Elks Club to the Old Timers, 4040, Rotary, all of whom are eligible for the not-for-profit status. Now, one of the things we're going to be asking them to do is to register. They don't have to do anything, but to register with our Model American Community pamphlet, and all that requires them to do is tell us what they do, who they are, and what their objective is. We think there's an opportunity to eventually begin to coordinate efforts. They don't have to be involved in any of our activities, but I do want them to give us description of the organization so that we have it. Our goal is to produce a book so that, because I think there's this whole sector out there that's operating to improve our community. And in some sense, they're not necessarily, John's not talking to Jane. For example, one of the interesting things when we met with the Head Start people, they said there'd be a real opportunity to bring the seniors and provide mentoring and that kind of thing to some of the Head Start programs. So, we want to at least put this book together, this pamphlet together, so that people have an opportunity to say, hey, you know what, this is who does this at this place, maybe we can work together. We'll encourage that, but the only obligation in terms of getting this is a policy we're defining in the town, and obviously this commission will have to adopt it as well. But I just wanted to give advance notice and warning and full disclosure. This is something we're considering for the town for use of Crawford Park. Again, all they have to do is give the description of the information of the organization. Nothing more than that in terms of getting it.
It's not really germane to this, but are you working with Council of Community Services?
Yes.
Yeah, as the umbrella group on this?
Yes. In fact, the Council of Community Services, we give a discounted rate. One of the things we're doing also is at the town level is, we have the second floor here in this building has remained empty now for basically 2 years. We haven't been able to rent it out. So what we decided to do was to offer not-for-profits looking for office space and that kind of thing a discounted rate if they work with us on the Model American Community Project. So precisely, the Council of Community Services basically gets a subsidized rate. They pay half the normal market rate because they have subscribed to work with us. So and of course there's big overlap between that project and the Council of Community Services mission. You're absolutely right. So that's just more full disclosure than anything else, but something that we wanted to maybe get people thinking about.
So would you propose that in order for any not-for-profit to use the Rye Town Park pavilions, they would have to register with the Model American Communities Project and include their information in your pamphlet?
Yes, exactly, but nothing more than information. They wouldn't have to do any activities.
But that's unfair because we're talking about Rye Town. The Model American Community is Rye Town, and we have the park greater than Rye Town, and also the city. So you can't obligate or tie in the city of Rye the same way. I mean, it would have to be thought through.
The Rye City officials have to take a look at it, and they'll have to look and see how onerous it is. And, quite frankly, I'd love to open it. I would love to extend our book. If you remember, in fact, it's fortuitous that Councilwoman Brett is here because we worked very closely on the Rye 350 project, where we really worked hard to get Rye City and Rye Town working together, and in fact shared a number of the costs associated with that and the planning efforts. And I would love for us to extend it to Rye Town and Rye City, if there was you felt there was some benefit for Rye City as well. But clearly, we just need to be absolutely. So this commission will have. I appreciate it. We'll have to go to a second round of voting. Here at this commission.
Right, and perhaps if it becomes very controversial, it can be voluntary. You can ask them to include themselves as opposed to require it for use of Rye Town Park.
Right.
Because I'm not sure that the town of Rye has the ability to require.
Well, it'll be a commission vote, right?
Right.
So if the commission decides it's but look, we would want a general consensus on this. And I'm confident we'll be able to do it one way or another.
Okay.
There's two other revenue possibilities. One is that cell phone antenna that was mentioned in the meeting, and the other is the memorial bench. Most people are requesting to put a little plaque.
Where's Mr. Arcaro tonight? Is he?
I don't know. I haven't heard from him today.
All right. Yes, we'll add those to the. Thank you. It's we should make that part of our memo that goes out to the board.
Have any cell phone companies, providers, actually approached recently either the city of Rye, or as far as being able to place? I mean, we get inquiries all the time. I'm just curious. It was the first time I heard that cell phone coverage is poor. I'm surprised.
The cell phone coverage on Milton Point is very, very poor.
I'm so surprised that that the providers have not,
Yeah.
There's very little coverage in the park.
The closest cell antenna is over at Playland, way up near the reserve.
I don't think that the city of Rye is currently considering any proposals to put cell phone towers in that part of Rye, but I know that at the community conversation meeting, it was discussed, and Mayor French said he wanted to talk about it within the city of Rye before the commission thought about putting something down there.
Let me tell you, it's a good revenue measure if it's on municipal property. We certainly have one on Village Hall. Oh, yes.
Is that much they good?
You have the flagpole.
The stealth flagpole. I mean, I can tell you, it's public information.
Oh, yeah, we can have several flags down there.
I don't remember. It started out years ago. I can't tell you how many years because I just don't recall off the top of my head. It's been there for about 5 or 6 years. It started at $75,000, and it escalates to 4%. The best we could do was negotiate 4%, which we thought was pretty lousy a couple of years ago. 4% is looking real good these days.
Wow.
But it's additional non-property revenue. I mean, so it's...
And that's three-quarters of our current deficit, if you will.
Investment.
Investment, right.
The last thing is, Mayor Feinstein mentioned earlier, and the not-for-profit discount, as far as I would have thought, it should only be for Rye City or Rye Town resident organizations. And so we should make that clear in our policy.
Yep.
Unless somebody objects.
Well, you have a number of organizations that are before us, though.
Well, those are not. I mean, they're not looking to use the. It's a bit different, I think. They're not looking to use the pavilion. They're looking to use the park as a whole.
Okay.
And I think actually, but you know what? As long as we're coming up for policy, I mean, Megan, you'll make your proposal next month. But we should have a policy as well.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
We should incorporate as part of the not-for-profit policy in terms of when somebody wants to use the whole of the park.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. Always on message, on point as usual, Commissioner Sonny. Thank you. Thank you. Good.
Just quickly looking at the not-for-profits that have used the pavilion in the last year, it looks like there are quite a few that were outside of Rye, or both the city and the town of Rye. So that's something that we should really consider, whether or not that extends past the city and town of Rye. Partly because you do want those non-residents thinking of coming to the park to use it as a park in the future. So whether or not there is an issue about whether or not
residents or non-residents.
Non-residents. You do want non-residents coming to use the park as well. It's marketing, right? So if you attract those people to the park for a not-for-profit party that's down there, then maybe they'll come back with their family another time. It's just something to put out there because I think that no matter what you charge not-for-profits, it will be an increase over what was charged to most not-for-profits last year.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner. We might make you a full-time replacement for the mayor. Sorry, Doug. Sorry. Okay. Capital. Well, actually, this is sort of a good segue. We didn't talk about this, and I don't see it as part of the formal agenda, but we did have some points here about the capital budget. If you saw, again, we sent you a lot of papers, and I promise next month we'll make it a little bit more coherent, an easier segment and read, but we got two documents there. I understand from the last monthly meeting, there was a request that we prioritize the required capital expenditures at the park. We all know there's a lot of capital expenditures that are needed there, but I think the staff was asked to prioritize capital expenditures, and my understanding is, and this is what you've received. So basically, it's one page. You can see that the total capital cost, that is, it comes out to $350,000 in terms of immediate needs, but the staff has prioritized and said absolutely essential need for $70,000 in capital expenditures. This is more information than anything else today because we'll be taking up the budget next time. But basically there are three expenses, and Fred, do you want to talk about these, or Bishop, do you want to talk about the the $70,000 in required. We've talked about it in past meetings. The North Beach showers, we've been looking to do those for a while. The ramp for $20,000, and then the sand along with that. And then then the other $30,000 is the automatic arms, which again gets us towards continues in our effort for increased controls and those kinds of things. So those were the staff identified as the three principal capital measures. I don't know if anybody has any questions, comments on that. I think also that's consistent with the last meeting, or was it just behind the scenes that the Rye City officials were saying they didn't, the whole allocation, they made an allocation to Rye Town of, I can't remember what it was.
$75,000. Same as last year, essentially.
$75,000. So $75,000, and that would it'd be a capital or operating budget shortfall.
Or any mix thereof.
So this will sort of dictate our capital budget, our budgeting for this year. If we're assuming $70,000 in CapEx, 40% I think goes to Rye City. So that would be about $28,000. So that would leave you the difference, just a little bit less than $50,000 as operating shortfall. So the operating shortfall can't be more than $100,000. Well, the investment in the park can't be more than $100,000. Just as you're thinking about it, whatever.
Right.
So that gives a little bit of good. Any questions about this? And then the next page is one thing. We probably need to do a little bit better. The lifeguards, between them, probably have 200 years of experience down there. They're absolutely fantastic. Great core. Mark Casada, Peter Henratty, and the team are terrific. And they made some recommendations about how some of the things they'd like to see, and so I sent that as well. And just as we're looking at if the town staff could look at these in coordination with the capital needs, some of them are. I mean, Mark, as most people know, is an artist as well. He paints. And I think he's got a nice sense, so he's made some constructive suggestions. I just wanted to make sure the commission had seen those as well. Good. Okay, before we get to the pond servicing proposal, I did want to talk about our Rye Town Capital Committee. And I apologize, the resolution came late for the Rye Town Capital Committee. But basically, and we've been talking about this for months, in fact, actually almost for years, as you know, Mayor Feinstein, about trying to do something like this. And I think what we wanted to do was to take the lead from, Playland. They actually put together a nice committee, and I think they put together a nice process. We wanted to see if we couldn't do something similar here. So the recommendation is basically that we create a 7-person capital planning committee. And the principal responsibility will be to identify the repairs and needs, capital expenditure needs at the park. Now, remember, Councilman Neoris from the town did a fairly detailed analysis. So we have some good starting point, but the real goal of the committee is to prioritize the capital projects, so they should take a look at, the capital committee were live today, they will look at the $70,000 that we talked about earlier. And then basically, most importantly, explore funding options, including public and private funding options for the repair, maintenance, and restoration of buildings at Rye Town Park. So really, the committee is being set up to think about and explore uses for the park and public-private funding options. And as I say, it's a 7-person committee. What we'd like to approve tonight are two things. One, that the makeup of the committee, how we construct the committee in terms of voting, and then finally, we wanted to recommend that chairperson be Chistina Beecher. Beecher. Apologize, Chistina Beecher. She fortunately couldn't be here tonight, and she sends her regrets. But obviously, we have her approval to put her name forward, and we've done some informal canvassing of the commission. But I wanted to open up. So 1, form the committee. 2, nominate Chistina as the chairperson. Any comments, questions, please?
Yeah, a few quick questions. This is going to be a standing committee, an ad hoc standing committee, right? So is there going to be terms Is it going to be standing for future? If it is, you have to have term limits, and you should stagger the term limits on it.
My thought, and again, this I'm glad Town Attorney Notice just come in. We're
Ad hoc, one time only.
Okay. That's why I asked the question.
boom! Didn't miss a beat. Right in.
The other question.
Waiting in the hallway, Benny.
Thank you.
The other question that I have is, I'm just looking at the responsibilities for determining the capital needs, identification of necessary repairs and maintenance, assessment, prioritization of capital projects, explore funding options, including public and private options for the repair maintenance. We've talked about RFPs going forward. What exactly would this particular committee do? Would this just not do an RFP? Would it just be making recommendations, and then the RFP would be process number 2? So at that point, once they make their report, then we'll make a determination whether or not to go out with an RFP. Exactly. So this is more of a, we've talked about RFPs, but we're taking a step backwards a little bit to say, hey, let's really do an assessment here.
Well, actually, I'm not absolutely. Let's talk this through. I mean, I sort of had envisioned it that they would basically spend a couple of months, prioritize the needs, look at the needs, think about the possible uses, begin to canvass the community, people that might be interested, then recommend an RFP. My expectation is they would, like that we did in Playland, make a recommendation, right? So we put out an RFP. I envision them continue to exist through the RFP process. They would help with the RFP. They would look at the proposals that came in and make a recommendation to this board. It wouldn't be binding, in the same way Playland wasn't binding, but they would make a recommendation. So you'd have input from the community about the possible uses here. And I would also see part of their role is going out and identifying people that, could do it. We've had people approach us, so they would gather the proposals come in, but also they try and generate proposals. So I think they take a proactive role, as a lead up to putting out the RFP.
So they would also, besides it takes some time to do the assessment, then they would also be responsible for the RFP, which we would then have to, I guess, approve. But it would be, and then at that point in time. Exactly. So that, are you looking for the August 1st deadline to be, or potential August 1st deadline? At that point in time, that's when the RFP would go out?
Well, I would hope the RFP goes way up before August 1st.
Well, let me just make a comment or something to think about. One of the things that we've always discussed is the fact that there might be lots of, I use the word synergies, with respect to whatever happens with Rye Playland. I don't know the timing. I mean, people from the city of Rye certainly are more attuned to the timing of what's going to happen from the county. But we really should look at this part and parcel, even though they're two distinct parks or two distinct areas. Sometimes you might get more interest depending what happens in Rye Playland as well. I don't want to necessarily piggyback, but sometimes you might increase the level of interest depending upon what the final determination is with respect to Rye Playland. That doesn't mean that you want to wait indefinitely, but sometimes you'll be able to market the potential uses, saying this may happen in Rye Playland, whatever happens, whether or not be sustainable playlands and the like. Just some things for us to think about.
No, I think that's absolutely correct. I think, and in fact, as you
could be really exciting.
No, that absolutely. As you know, we've been talking about this committee for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think
it's a timing now.
Exactly, the crystallization of the Rye Playland process said, look, let's get this up and going. Yeah. And my goal would be to have, and obviously we should coordinate with them. And I think it creates huge opportunity for us. If depending on what they do, to extend some of the proposals to our Rye Town Park would be fantastic. So that's why I wanted to get this process launched, and then have a committee in place that can be dialoguing not just with potential private sector participants. Obviously, we'll continue to look to raise funding, but also with Playland and coordinate with what's happening at the county level and Playland. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that would, in some sense, everything being equal, I would like to be putting out an RFP in 2 or 3 months' time, for review, in the fall. But you're absolutely right, that process needs to be closely coordinated with Playland.
I think it could be interesting. It may not be, but something to think about how it can be and what the response would be for particular private entities, public
Mr.
entities.
Marvin, you either one or two things: either that the task of this committee gets changed, or another committee gets formed. Because this is
A lot of
specific
work.
to the
Yeah.
Capital Planning Committee, and it seems like the scope
Exactly.
that Commissioner
It's
Feinstein, so
greater.
to speak, is greater, which may be something that we might want to create another committee. But if this is the committee that
Well, this is the committee.
you'd like, so then
We have to
that's
So
why
change
you-
the
so
scope
how
of
should we change,
responsibility.
why don't we
Yeah.
change
So-
it?
so
Can you
that-
make some recommendations?
Sure.
that should be extended beyond
Yeah.
August 1st.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, that was the other thing. I'm sorry, I've got, you can see my, I've got similar notes on my
then
piece of
I
paper
think,
here.
I think
Have to have a
that,
different term.
yes.
It changes things.
Prepare and...
One thing I think is
Yep.
that you've asked that a final report be given to the Rye Town Park Commission no later than August 1st, 2012. Depending on what happens at Playland, you might want to give the commission the ability to extend that date. So you just simply say, or such later date the commission may determine. And that way the commission, by just a motion on the floor, can extend the date that you get a proposal from that you get that RFP that you're hoping to get from this committee. It's fine to put a date in there because you want to give them the sense that you want this happening quickly, but I think you also want to give yourself the ability to move that date. But I agree that the purpose of the committee needs to be expanded to include reviewing final proposals so that it's...
From an eventual RFP.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
We could, the commission by separate resolution can also add dates for this committee to act by, so that we don't have to be so restrictive in this particular resolution. If this resolution is just to form the committee,
Yeah, that's a
then we
good
should
point.
do that.
Change
And then,
Yes.
and then this commission can charge the committee to do certain things by certain dates.
Yeah, actually, that's a wonderful suggestion. Let's take any date out.
Yeah.
And let's clarify the scope.
And by the same token, since it's just the adoption and the creation of this committee, no names of any person should be here.
Other than the chair.
No, because if it goes beyond a certain limit, then that, you want to, by vote for the chair, and then as a separate, I would do it as a separate resolution.
Oh, I mean, separate resolution to vote for the
Resolve
chair.
to create the committee,
Right.
and then resolve to
A second
have the chair.
resolution.
Because if the chair resigns for whatever reason, then you have to create a new chair.
Right.
If you
So I-
leave the name of this person in here, I think that it's
Mr. Noto,
sometimes somewhat defective.
You agree with that?
Yeah, you can change, I mean, that's just a draft, you
Yeah.
can do whatever you want.
Perfect, great, thank you. Wonderful suggestion.
All right, so we're
Do you have a legal background as well?
putting a period.
So effectively, we need to modify this resolution, and I think what we'll do is take out the mention of the chairperson being Chistina, and we'll have a second resolution that nominates Chistina. Wonderful. Okay. Bishop, did you get all that?
Working on it right now.
Let's-
Well, I think, Laura,
Yes.
do you have,
The only thing we don't have resolved is any changes you want to make to the charge itself.
Well, that's, so Laura has a suggestion, or do you have a Mayor
Well, I
Feinstein?
would just add something, and also charge the committee to prepare a request for proposal for review by the Rye Town Parks Commission with respect to such private use and funding options. It's keeping it really, really broad. I mean, that's really
And then
broad.
also, they would then eventually review, if an RFP is agreed, they would review the RFP. I don't want to create another committee. I want
No,
to
that's true.
Evaluate
Yeah.
and
Evaluate.
Yeah, right, evaluate and review any,
And
and
so it's
proposals.
To develop, evaluate, and review.
Any proposals.
And I think we have to use the word ad hoc in there, ad hoc committee. And I think we also somewhere need to have a dissolution of this committee so it doesn't grow beyond what we expect it to grow. In other words, do you want to have a 12-month period? Because then,
Yeah,
then
why don't
that's
we-
why I asked the
why don't
question
we
initially, is
say,
it a standing committee?
No, it's an ad hoc committee. Why don't we say, do we want to say reviewed period? I don't know how these are generally done.
I'm gonna say that
Do you
you could-
review periodically, or do you
Determine this committee shall be,
through to the end of this year, and then
or
review it at
whatever
that
you feel
point
is
in time?
necessary. You can also go till, January 1st of 13, or you can go to June 1st of 13,
Right.
So that,
I think, again, Mayor Feinstein makes a good point. I think it's going to be in part due
Very
to
important, very important.
playland.
I just
timing.
think that it's going to be crucial.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean they can't start working on it right now.
No, sure.
But I don't think any really...
Well, I want them to do the legwork,
Yes,
right?
but
And we're gonna put together,
the RFPs won't go out. They have to be approved by us anyhow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it go beyond, so this way they can help us for
Right.
next January as well.
Yeah.
So I would suggest at least a 14th or 16th month.
Great. Why don't we say, why don't we say 18-month?
Okay.
18-month committee to be reviewed, at that point in time.
Does that coincide with your reelection, Joe?
No, I'm done. I'm done. I'm in for 4 years, Benny. The people have made their choice.
Are you trying to say you're done?
I'm done. After 4 years. No, I don't know.
Term limits in town?
Term limits, yeah, self-imposed by my wife.
That's my line, self-imposed. I tried in Rye.
Thanks.
Yeah, right, to continue for a term.
So that would put
Yeah,
them,
either way is right.
that would put them into July of 2013.
Let's do-
18 months.
Let's do July 1st, 2013.
Perfect.
Yes? Okay.
Commission to expire.
Okay.
That's how you let term limits. That's a Paul imposed term limit, huh?
Self-imposed.
Yeah, self-imposed.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Somebody want? Do you want to take a crack at?
Let me just read you the changes so that you
All right.
you understand what we're
Yep.
putting in here. Okay. All right. In the be it resolved that the Rye Town Park Commission hereby creates the planning committee.
da, 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 da.
At the end.
Capital Planning
You want to add ad hoc?
Capital Planning Committee. Yes.
Okay. Boom. Ad hoc. Okay. At the end of that paragraph, we will say, and also charge the committee to develop, evaluate, and review a development RFP for potential public-private partnership at Rye Town Park. Or we need something more specific.
That's fine. To be approved by the commission.
Okay.
Actually, you could say that the RFP should be approved by the commission before.
I would say something like to improve and develop a request for proposal for review by the Rye Town Park Commission with respect to such private use and funding options, and to evaluate any such proposals and make a recommendation to the Rye Town Parks Commission. I'm thinking about the fact,
exactly.
first they're drafting it, they're submitting it to us,
Right.
okay? They come in,
Right.
they will evaluate it and make recommendations.
Perfect.
Okay.
But non-binding recommendations, yeah?
Well, it's never, they don't have
Can
the
I
authority.
rely on the recording
All right,
to be
so
able
what-
to get
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
No, so I think actually, I was going to ask Mayor Feinstein just to read that one more time. And then get a
Okay.
motion, and we'll use Mayor Feinstein's document, Bishop, to record the...
Okay.
I'll do this. And to prepare and develop a request for proposal for review by the Rye Town Parks Commission with respect to such private use and funding options, and to evaluate any such proposals and make recommendations to the Rye Town Park Commissions with respect thereto.
Okay, got
Something
it.
like that.
Motion.
Perfect.
Motion to approve?
We haven't finished.
We have
Yep.
two more
Not-
paragraphs.
Two more paragraphs, yeah.
In the second paragraph, all we did was strike out the chairperson of the committee shall be Chistina Beecher.
Right.
So
But it
chairperson of
should-
the committee
shall
be one of the committee members, right?
Right.
Shall
Just make
be,
it-
okay, just one of the committee members.
Just fix the...
Okay.
And then the commission shall expire on July 1st.
And that, right, I have that in the third paragraph,
Okay.
where you say, issue a final report to the Rye Town Park Commission.
No, that whole line comes out.
Right. The committee
Shall
shall provide
provide-
periodic reports to the Rye Town Park Commission. The committee shall keep minutes of its
the
meetings,
meeting.
period.
Right, period.
Okay, got it, period. All right, got it. All right, and then there's a sentence that we're adding saying the committee to expire on July 1st, 2013.
Right.
I so move the resolution
Okay,
as amended.
I'll second.
Great.
okay, Laura Brett. All
You can
righty.
take it. You can read it.
Okay, Commissioner Salanitro.
Yes.
Commissioner Feinstein.
Yes.
Commissioner Brett
Yes.
and Commissioner Carvin.
Yeah, Bishop, here, take Mayor Feinstein's.
I'd like to make
Okay.
a motion that we nominate Chistina Beecher to serve as the chair chairperson of the newly formed Rye Town Park Adhoc Capital Planning Committee.
Wait a second.
Second.
Okay. And that's Commissioner Salanitro.
Yes.
Commissioner Feinstein.
Yes.
Commissioner Brett.
Yes.
Commissioner Carvin.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful. Great. Well, I think that's I'm really excited about the committee. I'm really excited. And then between now and the next commission, we'll, yep.
And we should thank everybody that's serving on that committee, because it's going to be a yeoman's job to do that. It's going to be a great thing.
Exactly.
Thank everybody for serving on it.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Mr. Lawyer.
Okay, I think everybody except Councilwoman Brett is familiar with the history of this pond project that we've been working on, and you have all the materials in your folders, more than you probably ever would want to know about what goes on with ponds, but it's something that we've been working with the Friends of Rye Town Park since we all came into working for the Rye Town Park Commission, and of course it goes back to when the pond was reformulated back in 2004, 2005, from a very small little, what everybody called the duck pond, to a really nice, environmentally oriented wildlife enhancement pond. And unfortunately, as with all man-made ponds, it's required maintenance even within the first year after its construction. They did put a liner of some sort of a clay liner into the pond, and yet because of the way the water comes in and because it's getting run off from Forest Avenue's storm drain, nutrients get into the pond and cause heavy algae growths, which then cause they decompose and take away the oxygen. So it creates an imbalance. So the trick is to try to balance the pond, and we've used one or two other people. I think the Friends did some of the work themselves for the first couple years. We're now at the situation where I've made a number of contacts with various pond maintenance organizations over the last couple years, and I think we've got Clint Fry here from the Friends of Rye Town Park, who's been involved in this process long before I was, and I think we agree that there's two parts to this. One is to have an ongoing maintenance program dealing with what we have now, and the other is to develop and make a recommendation regarding some possible capital projects that would involve the purchase and setting up of better aerator systems for the oxygen aspect of the balanced pond. But for tonight's meeting, and it's crucial that we get this process of pond management underway early because of the requirements of getting the federal and state permits that are needed in order to be able to handle the pond, in order to maintain the balance of various ingredients. One is the oxygen, the other is nitrogen and phosphorus, which are the two main nutrients which cause the damage, which create the problems of algae. And also, as most of you who know, because we're a long on and sound, the state and the federal government have very strict standards about the quality of the water that can go into the pond, into the sound from our pond. So we are trying to proactively develop basically a nutrient-neutral pond, I guess you could say, whereby it would use up whatever was generated within the pond. So that's what we're trying to do. My recommendation, as I say here on the memo that goes with all this material, is we hired the Pond and Lake Connection Company. Their proposal provides a comprehensive approach to achieving the goals at a reasonable price. The other plans either don't include full management service or are much more expensive. You have all the different proposals here. I mentioned further down that we would work out in formulating the contract we signed with them that we would make sure that they would inform us in advance of their water quality tests and scheduled treatment programs, applications, and they will report to us the results of their tests and applications. It would be a one-year contract which we would review in the fall before committing any further work. Payments will be staggered to provide leverage in terms of work being done in a timely and satisfactory manner. And I think if the Friends are willing, we would be splitting the cost with the Friends, and they would be billed separately for roughly half of the total cost. One way to do this would be to have the Rye Town Park pay the initial sort of deposit and the first half of the cost, and then the Friends would cover the other part of that.
Bill, so you're just asking for a recommendation on the maintenance, not
Yes.
on the aerator?
And then we would, between now and March, we would follow up and working with Frank DeLeo, who's been basically responsible for trying to keep our aerators functioning, and we have electrical issues and we have the size of the pump issues. There are a variety of technical issues that are way beyond my expertise, but before we spend a huge amount of money on aerators or oxygenators, I think we really need to look at it, because I'm not even sure if we need to the oxygen levels have never been the problem as far as I'm concerned. It's been the nutrient levels. And I think before we spend a lot of money on something that we might not need, we should see what happens, because this From the Pond and Lake connection, they're going to be doing much more than has ever been done in the past in terms of monitoring what the levels are and at what point they are. It requires your attention, because depending on whether you get a lot of rain, if you get too much heat, there are so many different factors, and that's why I think it's really more than our staff could ever possibly handle, and we need a company that has a track record of doing this, as they do, and I've checked their references and they're good. So that's my recommendation.
Great.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions
from the commission staff.
Have you spoken to the Friends about...
Well, I think Clint wants to say something.
Yes. We're prepared to pay for one half of the initial cost. I would recommend that the contract be signed with the town of Rye, and that the town of Rye then bill the Friends.
Okay.
That way you have one contact for the contract, and we will pay for one half of that.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
So from...
I've met with the gentleman who issued that proposal, along with Bishop and Linda Wells and Bill, and he seems to be very competent, qualified. They all seem to be competent and qualified. It's just that the one is 4 times more expensive than the one we're talking about. I think he wants to retire quickly, so and I think he saw us as the people who are going to supply that retirement for him. But I would recommend that we go with this proposal.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the contribution. We appreciate it. Thank you.
I just have one. I read your proposal, and I've looked at I've read your memo, and I've looked at all the proposals. My only concern is that I understand that this requires the application of an herbicide, and I'm sure you've discussed this with them. But please do just tell me what you know about whether or not it's toxic, whether or not it could leach into the soil. And
I think that what has been done in the past was the use of a copper-based herbicide. And that was basically the problem working with that company, is they didn't do anything else. That was the only thing that was their solution. And in my mind, that should be the last resort, because by killing off the algae, you're not really getting rid of it. It's going to go down to the bottom of the pond and then decompose and then create more stress on the pond. So I think that I'm not saying that we should never use it, but our discussion with them was that, well, we wanted to have a company that could do, monitor the program and do what the minimal amount that they had to do. And that's where we're going with this. I would say that you can get a license to do it, as the LIFE, I think is the acronym of their company that Mark Rowland runs, does have the permit to do that. It's approved by the DEC. So it's not like we're doing something illegal or immoral, but it is not certainly the thing that you want to do first. If you can control it through the algae-eating bacteria, or if you can control it by better maintenance of the oxygen levels. But, the problem is that when this pond was finished, there was, in theory, there was supposed to be an ongoing monitoring program that was supposed to happen, that was proposed to cost somewhere in the area of $3,000 or $4,000 a year just to monitor, and that wasn't done, at least not in a formal way. Maybe it was done somewhat informally, but so we need to really know what's going on there. And I think this is what we're going to get from this project. So I'm looking forward to it. My background is as the director of a nature center. I've been involved in a variety of different pond-related projects around the town of Greenberg, and I've met with people from Westchester County about pond maintenance in county parks and golf courses. So there are people, such as the company that I'm recommending, who've, this is actually the second generation of the business. They've been in that business for quite a long time, and it's changed a lot over the years, and people are moving more towards a non-herbicide approach, because it's in the long run, it's just the same way why you use compost tea on your lawn instead of chemical fertilizers, because basically you want your lawn to be a living organism that has a balance, and that's the same with the pond. So.
Okay. My understanding, though, in reading it, is that this company does make limited use of herbicides.
Well, yes, but we'll be working with them. That's why I said before, we want to get the results of their tests before they actually start the treatment, so we understand and have an opportunity to discuss with them what the tests have found and then what the next step will be.
Okay.
And I think you need to be prepared to use it if you have to, but that by requiring them to do the test and give us the results, and also the fact that we wouldn't pay them the second payment until after that first round of tests was carried out in May. They gave us a nicely detailed schedule of what they would do.
So this is as limited a use as possible to make sure that the pond
and it's a one-year arrangement. We'll see how it goes. I mean, they seem to be, very aware of what we're looking for here, but obviously you never know for sure until you start doing it. But as I said, I checked with the Rye Golf Club. They've done some work for them, and I checked with the Appowamus Club, and both of them gave good references for their professionalism and efficiency. Yes.
How long do they expect to take to get the Speedies permit?
Well, that's why we need to have you vote on it for this. I don't know if it says
2 months. 2 months.
Is that 2 months?
Yeah,
well,
2 months.
He mentioned, is that what it is, 2 months? It's in here somewhere.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember seeing it.
So I think we are, I feel like we're doing the right thing. If anything, we've talked with the Friends about the idea of trying to use the pond as more of an educational asset to the community, because, in my nature center days, we had school groups coming in and out of the nature center all the time just to study ponds as an educational experience. And here's a pond that anybody can come and look at, and they may not know what they're seeing all the time, but through this process of monitoring the pond and treating it, we can make it an educational aspect. And we've also talked about the idea of trying to, although this is not right away, but trying to limit what people feed the waterfowl that live in that pond, because we found days when the place was floating with bagels or I don't know, challah or whatever. People don't necessarily understand what a healthy pond is. That there's plenty for those ducks to eat without having to be. In fact, it's not even good for them to have that kind of food anyway. So we're going to be working on that.
Adoption would be very difficult.
Well, yes, we feel like one possibility would be to have a thing like they have at some of the children's zoo, where they have little dispensers for cracked corn, which at least is what birds would eat in the wild.
We've ordered those already.
Ah, there you go. There you go. So I feel very good about this.
Another revenue source.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments for Bill? I get a motion to approve the...
I'd like to make a motion based upon staff's recommendation and review of the various proposals for pond maintenance at Rye Town Park, that the Commission accept the proposal from the Pond and Lake Connection not to exceed $3,500, and also accept the gift from Friends of Rye Town Park to defray the cost up to 50%.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. All right, and it'll be Commissioner Salanitro.
Yes.
Commissioner Feinstein.
Yes.
Commissioner Brett.
Yes.
Commissioner Carbon.
Yes.
Okay.
Bill put a lot of time in.
Yeah, obviously,
Thank you very
Bill,
much.
thanks so
Thank
much.
you,
I
Bill.
appreciate that. Good solution there. And thank you, Clint and the Friends of Rye Town Park, for your contribution as well. Thanks for the work you guys did.
That's great.
Any other matters, any questions, comments from the commissioners? This is really sort of a relaxed meeting tonight. It was the start to a new...
You don't have a right to, you don't
Yeah.
have a meeting tonight?
Yeah, I do, yeah, I got one, yeah, coming up. And so I'm just about to, so it's perfect timing. I got 10 minutes, we got 10 minutes to spare, it's
Like
unusual.
a council meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, it's at 8?
8 o'clock,
Usually it's
no, it's
7:30.
usually they're banging down the doors, no, it's 8 o'clock tonight.
It's relaxed because you deferred decisions on the fees. It's so nice to say
You have to come back, you have to come back at the meeting.
Exactly right.
fees and the
Just
marketing.
I wasn't dare gonna get into it with Councilwoman Brett. I figured I'll let the Commissioner, Mayor French is back. Yeah, exactly.
Live with
No.
that one.
Can I get a motion to bring the meeting to an end?
I will make that motion.
Second?
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
I'm amazed.
Thanks. Oh, you do? Tonight? Oh, you have
No,
was
not a
unusual.
meeting, no.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Here, you couldn't have done this without.
Good bookend.
I got to tell you, all you guys.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your effort.